All right, we're going to try this out here and see how it goes. We are live for the very first time here. Something new, something different. My name's CJ. Welcome to Out of Bounds DFS. In today's video, we're going to be talking NBA over on PrizePicks. We're going to take a first look at the PrizePicks board and see how things are looking from a fantasy points perspective, whether we should be taking the overs or the unders on these guys. Now, it's a fairly small slate today, so not a ton of names or a ton of games to discuss, but nonetheless, we're going to hit on many names and all of the players that you care about the most. So if this is your first time to the channel, welcome to Out of Bounds DFS. On this channel, we talk all things single player daily fantasy sports. This video could either go really good or really bad. We're just winging it. We're seeing how it goes the first time that I'm doing a live stream. So let's see how it all plays out here. First thing we're going to do is talk some injury news. Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors. He's doubtful to play today with a tailbone injury, bruised tailbone. He is likely out. So no Steph Curry for Golden State. Then we got Anthony Davis, power forward for the Los Angeles Lakers. He is out due to COVID protocol, out indefinitely. Joel Embiid, center for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's going to be out today with a knee injury as well. He's also out indefinitely. We got Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, center for the Lakers. He is out due to conditioning. He's missed a few games with COVID. So, yeah, he's working his way back into game shape. Serge Ibaka, power forward for the Los Angeles Clippers. He is questionable with a back injury. We got Cody Zeller, Charlotte Hornets. He's out with a shoulder injury. And then a number of different guys here that probably won't have a major impact. Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, Kevin Looney, Cam Reddish, Seth Curry, Patrick Beverley, Eric Pascal, and Nathan Knight. What's going on, Beef Swellington? Thanks for tuning in, man. Happy to see you there. We're just going over some things here for the PrizePicks NBA slate. So if you have any names, any players that you're interested in me breaking down, whether it be fantasy projection, a single stat, let me know. And I'll do that for you guys because, you know, that's what I'm here for. So until you guys start hitting me with questions or comments or anything, we are going to go ahead and just go through the PrizePicks board in the order that it is set up in. So the first guy we're going to talk about is Trae Young. Atlanta Hawks, he's projected at 45 today, 45 over on PrizePicks. So if we head on over to RotoGrinders, which is our reference site of choice, we could take a look at Trae Young and see if he is in a good spot or bad spot. And we do that by looking at defense versus archetype, which lets us know if Trae Young's in a good position here or in a good matchup or if he is not. So with this game starting soon, I wanted to jump on the live stream and try to get you this information as soon as possible here. So Trae Young's projected at 45 over on PrizePicks, but he's just 40 over on RotoGrinders. So as you can see, they're like in a big under on RotoGrinders today. Now, combo guards against this Lakers team, the Lakers allow almost 47 fantasy points per minute to opposing combo guards. So Trae Young, he's in a spot here where this might be a situation where he goes under, but let's just take a look at his recent game logs and see how Mr. Young has been performing here. You can see over his last 5 games, he's got an over back here against Toronto on March 11th. Then he goes under. And then finally, his last game against OKC, he goes under again. So he has not been going over 45 very often here in his last 5 games. You can see he's got 4 where he's went under and 1 game where he's went over. So I would probably lean towards taking the under in this matchup, and the folks over at RotoGrinders agree. Another guy that we have here is Clint Capella. He's at 37. 37 for Clint Capella, and over on RotoGrinders, they got him at 35.41. So not a ton of points to be scored on this particular matchup here in this game. But you can see Clint Capella is expected to go under. He'll probably be facing off against the likes of like Montrezl Harrell for the most part today. So Clint Capella under, looking like the way to go. Let's just see how 37 has treated Clint Capella recently, whether he's been going over or under. You can see his game logs are a bit spotty here, up and down for Clint Capella in his last few. If you go back to his 5th game, he drops 50 fantasy points against Miami, and then in a rematch against Miami, only 28. Misses the next game, comes back, 47, puts him well over 37, misses the next 2, and then comes back versus OKC, which was 2 nights ago and drops 25. So he should be good to go today versus this Los Angeles Lakers squad. But, you know, he could be a tough guy to predict here. But if anyway you're going, it's probably going to be the under on Clint Capella, as this matchup not looking like a good one. The Lakers hold post bigs like Clint Capella to just 24 fantasy points per game. So I'd be leaning toward the under in this case here. So there you have it for Clint Capella. They've also got John Collins and Danilo Gallinari on the board. Now, we'll talk Gallo real quick. He's at 26 on PrizePicks. They've got him at 25 over on Roto Grinders, but Gallinari is in a pretty good matchup here against this Lakers team. The Lakers allow over 33 fantasy points per game to versatile forwards such as Danilo Gallinari. So let's take a look at how he's been doing lately. And you got to keep in mind with Gallinari, he gets more playing time when guys like Clint Capella are out of the lineup. So these game logs, they may not be, 100% accurate given who all is playing for the Atlanta Hawks today. But you can see in his last 5 here, he went over, barely misses here and goes under. Then he goes over, and under. So for the most part, he has been going under in his last 5 games. And this is the first time that they're taking on the Lakers, at least in a long while. So we don't have any game logs to compare Danilo Gallinari's previous performances versus the Lakers. So in this situation, he's expected to play about 28 minutes. He does average 0.9 fantasy points per minute, and his usage rating is over 20. So Gallinari here might be in a good position to go over. I'm just a little concerned as there's not a ton of points to be scored in this matchup. So with that in the books, we can talk Los Angeles Lakers now, where we got LeBron James, Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Kuzma up on the board. Yo, Mason, what is up, my brother? Thanks for tuning in. You guys let me know if you have anybody you want me to talk about in today's video. I'm just winging it. We're going through the board as we typically do on our pre-recorded videos, but I'm going to touch on some of the guys that you want to talk about. Whether it be a fantasy projection, a single stat, let me know. Let me know, and I will discuss further for you guys. Now, Los Angeles Lakers, we got LeBron James. He is projected at 52 fantasy points. LeBron is at 48.34, which puts him well under the 52 that he's projected at. Now, this Hawks team has done a pretty good job here against versatile forwards over the course of the season. The Hawks holding versatile forwards to just 31 fantasy points per game. But this is no ordinary versatile forward. This is LeBron James, King James. So LeBron James, we know, is pretty much matchup proof. This dude is still getting it done. He's still the king in my book, still a stud. But over his last 5 games here, we're going to take a look and see how he's performed. If we go all the way back here to March 2nd, that would be his 5th game in his game log. You can see that he drops 59 fantasy points, putting him well over 52 quite easily. He misses the next game against Sacramento heading into All-Star break. This 14-4, well, that was against Team Durant in the All-Star game. He comes back after All-Star break against the Pacers, 36.6. That would be a big time under. 44.5 would be under. 56.4 against Minnesota puts him well over. And then 58.6 against Charlotte puts him over as well. So as you can see, guys, LeBron, it's been a little shaky for him in terms of going over under. But in his last 5, he's went over 3 times, under 2 times. So Mason, I need the 2 safest plays. Very bad. The 2 safest plays. Well, there's no such thing as anything being safe or being a lock. Everything is, up in the air when you're talking sports betting, sports gambling, fantasy sports. I don't know that there's a such thing as a safe play, but we're going to keep going through them. If there's a particular play that you're liking, let me know, man, and we will talk about it. But, we're just getting things started here. This is a first look, so I don't have any safe plays to give you at the moment, to be totally 100% truthful and transparent. But we're kind of doing a discovery here. We're going through all the games, all the players, and hopefully we can discover who a safe play looks like together. Now, the next guy we're going to talk about is Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder is at 28 over on PrizePicks. He's in a good spot today in this matchup here against the Hawks. Of course, he is a former Atlanta Hawk himself. Once upon a time, Dennis Schroeder was an Atlanta Hawk. So maybe there's a little bit of a revenge narrative. Maybe he looks to have a big game versus his former team. The matchup is certainly there for him to have a big game. The Atlanta Hawks, they allow over 57 fantasy points per game to combo guards like Dennis Schroeder. So this is a plus matchup for sure. The Hawks are the second most generous, second most giving team in the entire league to combo guards like Schroeder. So let's look at his recent game logs and see if 28 he's been going over or under that number. All right, so overall, his last 5 games look pretty strong here, pretty solid. In terms of the 28 projection, he has went over 28 in 1, 2, 3 games out of his last 5. So 3 games out of 5, he has went over, just 2 unders in his recent game log. So I am liking Dennis Schroeder here to go over 28. You know, in terms of safe plays, I don't know if it's a safe play, but I'll say that it does look like a good play here at first look. 31.3 minutes per game, 0.87 fantasy points per minute, and his usage rating is over 22, creeping up to 23. So I do like Dennis Schroeder in this matchup here versus this Atlanta Hawks team. Like I said, his former team, I'm sure he's going to look to come out and have a big performance. So there you have it for Dennis Schroeder. Kyle Kuzma, he's kind of in an interesting spot. They got him at 27 over on PrizePicks, 25 over on Roto Grinders. You can see versatile forwards against the Hawks have done pretty well this season. They're averaging 31 or more fantasy points per game. So loving the matchup here in terms of DVA. Jay, what is up, Jay? What is your points for LeBron on points? What you point for LeBron on points? I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, but I'm assuming you're asking, does LeBron go over or under real life points if we're talking single stat? Is that what you're asking, Jay? I hope I'm getting your question right, but we will look at LeBron's single stat points if I'm correct and that's what you're asking. We'll take a look at that right after we look at Kyle Kuzma and finish up with him. So you can see Kuzma in his last 5 games, he's went over in 1, 2, 3. Then he falls down to 21.1 and 23.5. So he's got 3 overs, 2 unders in his last 5 games. He's been going over more often than not in his last few. So the over looking like the way to go here for Kyle Kuzma, especially when you consider the matchup. Looks like a good one here on paper, a plus or positive matchup. And 26.2 minutes per game, 0.9 fantasy points per minute with a usage rating of 19.61. So Kyle Kuzma, Roto Grinder says maybe he goes under, but the matchup says there's a chance for him to go over in this one. So Jay is asking that we take a look at LeBron James in his single stats. So let's take a look at that. So today they've got him at 27.5 real life points, which means in order for him to go over, he'd have to hit 28 points. In order for him to go under, he'd have to stay under 27.5 and go for 27 points or less. So let's just take a look real quick at LeBron James and his recent games. And we could scroll over here. We've got his game logs up and you could see how LeBron has been doing in his last few. So 37 points against Charlotte, 25 against Minnesota, 22 against Golden State, 18 against Indiana, and then we skip over this all-star game against Team Durant. We go back here to Phoenix where he drops 38 points. So for the most part, I mean, it's looking like LeBron James has been going under 27.5. You can see in his last 5 games that he's only went over 27.5 2 times out of 5. So the under has been the way to go on LeBron James. But let's take things a step further here. We can go to another website that I like to reference. It's called lineups.com. Lineups.com, in case you're unfamiliar, they have a lot of different player stats on here. And this is one that I like to reference when I'm looking for season averages, 30-game averages, 10-game averages. So we can head on over to that website. We can filter out all the other teams and just go down to the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm showing you guys this because I want you guys to be able to do this yourselves as well if I'm not around for you. So if we look at the season averages for LeBron, you can see that he's putting up 25.8 real life points per game. If we look at his 30-game averages, that average rises a little bit to 26.2. So that's a little bit higher, but still under 27.5. And then if we look at his last 10 games, his averages there are 25.6 points per game. So that still puts him under 27.5. So his 30-game averages his season averages, 30-game averages, and his last 10-game averages are all under 27.5. So you keep that in mind, and then you factor in that this game, the totals are looking like LA 111.25, Atlanta 107.75. There's not a whole lot of combined points here when you look at the game totals for my taste. I would probably lean toward the under on LeBron James just based on what I'm seeing. First look, we're looking at it for the first time together. I would probably say LeBron James stays under 27.5 points, going for 27 or less. But one last thing we could check that might help us out here. We'll head on over to RotoWire. And RotoWire is nice because if you go over to their sports betting site, click NBA, and then we go over to player props. All right, we can pull up LeBron James. Let's just type in his name so that we have him kind of narrowed down here, filtered out. Boom, LeBron James. You could see him versus Atlanta. They got all of his props up here for the various sites. So DraftKings Sportsbook, they have him at 27.5, just like PrizePicks does. And so far, the juice is on the under for LeBron James, going over under on the 27.5 points. Now, FanDuel, they have their own sportsbook as well. People are betting the under on 27.5 there. Then you got BetMGM, where people are betting the over, but that's on 26.5 points. So they think that he will go over 26.5, but the other sites think he'll go under 27.5. So where does that leave him? That leaves him at about 27 points. So on this particular stat here, I'm probably taking the under on LeBron James just based on how the action's looking on these various sports books. So hopefully that helps you out, Jay. Let me know if you have any other questions, though, for any single stats that are popping out to you. But I am leaning toward the under on LeBron James today. I think LeBron does a little bit more to get Dennis Schroeder the ball more. I think this is a Dennis Schroeder revenge narrative type of game, but that's how I'm thinking. What do you think on Trae Young? Trae Young in terms of real life points? Well, that's a good question. We could look at Trae Young real quick. Maybe we could lock in a quick little pick on Trae Young. So we'll look at the juice here, or the way that people are betting on these various sites. You see that DraftKings 23.5, they're taking the over. And then over on FanDuel, you could see that they're taking the over as well on the 23.5 points for Trae Young. Let's take a look at his averages real quick, and we'll see if taking Trae Young over or under on that 23.5 for points is the way to go. And we'll start by looking at his season average. So his season average is 25.9. That looks like an over to me. If we look at his last 30 games, you could see 26.3. That's a definite over versus today's prop of 23.5 points. And then finally, in his last 10 games, his averages have started to dip a little bit. He's at 23 points per game in his last 10. All right, so let's go and look at the matchup here for Trae Young. You can see on the Atlanta side of things, if we look at DVA, this is a fantastic DVA situation, meaning defense versus archetype. So Trae Young's archetype is a combo guard. So the Los Angeles Lakers are allowing nearly 47 fantasy points per game to combo guards like Trae Young. So you got to think that real life points are going to make up a bulk of what his fantasy projection are going to be. So I would say that this is a good matchup for Trae Young in terms of real life points. We've already looked at his season averages, 30-game averages, 10-game averages, and we've looked at how the people are betting over on the various sports books. So let's look at his last few games and see if taking the over or under on Trae Young's points is the way to go in his last 5. So in his last 5, he has went over with 37, over with 28, then he goes under, 2 back-to-back games here against what I would call soft or weak opponents. He goes under, and then he comes back against OKC and drops 23, which still isn't enough to put him over 23.5. So I typically lean towards guys' averages, and over his season and 30 and 10-game averages, he's been going over more often than not. So we got to get him up to 24 or more points. I'm probably going to take the over on Trae Young and say that that's the way to go based on what I'm seeing. You guys let me know if you agree or disagree in the chat. When will the spreadsheet come out? Well, Sam, that is a good question. Usually the spreadsheet And the spreadsheet he's referring to is for the PrizePicks premium members. If you're not aware, in our Discord, by the way, link to the Discord is in the description of this live stream. We have a premium channel, a premium chat with over 150, 160 members. I don't even know how many at this point, but basically there's a spreadsheet that comes out. And on that spreadsheet, we do a site-by-site projection analysis of fantasy points. And we do a first half spreadsheet as well, looking at like the last 5 games, how players have performed in the first half of those last 5 games. So for your question, Sam, I would say that 1 hour before the tip-off. Now, I know there's a game that's going to tip off here at 3:30. The spreadsheet will not be out for that one, so it'll come out later on to cover all of the main slate, not the early games. So hopefully that answers your question, Sam. Beef Swellington wants to know Giannis over on fantasy points, Draymond over on assists, DeRozan over on points, Kawhi over on fantasy points, Tobias Harris over on real life points. That's my ticket. Can you rate it? Sure. That's a mouthful there, buddy. Let's take a look though. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Fantasy points was his first one, right? So let's take a look at Giannis over here on PrizePicks. We go to Fantasy Score, scroll on down the way here, and find Giannis Antetokounmpo. So he's at 58 fantasy points. Alrighty. Over on Roto Grinders, they've got him at 58 as well. Actually, 58.45 to be exact. Now, first things first, let's look at the totals on this game. You got 231 combined points here when you look at the total for Milwaukee and the total for San Antonio. So I'm already a big fan of the total of this game. Anytime a game has over 230 combined points, I'm a big fan of that. The thing that does worry me a little bit is that the spread here is kind of big, meaning that I would probably put this in like a red rating type of spread, meaning that this game has a good chance of blowing out. That could impact a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has a sky-high fantasy projection, in this case 58 points. Let's look at Giannis's last 5 games though and see how he's been performing with 58. All right, so as you can see here, guys, in his last 5, it's been bit hit or miss, I would say, for Giannis to hit 58 or more fantasy points. Now, you didn't tell me if, okay, he did say he took the over on Giannis's 58. So let's take a look. All right, going back here, 56.2 puts him under. This is his all-star game performance against Team Durant. We don't include that. 54, still a good score, but not good enough to go over 58. Then he comes back here with back-to-back games against Washington. Anytime a player needs a little stimulus package in terms of real-life points, fantasy points, assists, rebounds, play the Washington Wizards, and you will see a bump in performance. Washington just allows a ton of points, fantasy and otherwise. So anyway, back-to-back games against Washington, you can see that he goes well over 58 in those. And then he comes back against Philly here, 51.5 puts him under. So in his last 5 games, he has went under 58 in 3 of those and just over in 2. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned with Giannis going over in this matchup. In terms of the matchup here, versatile forwards against the Spurs. Spurs are allowing almost 31 fantasy points per game to versatile forwards. Now, that would just be if you were thinking like versatile forwards is a generic term here, but we're not talking about any old versatile forward. We're talking about one of the best, if not the best, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. So definite upside here with Giannis. He's matchup proof. He should be well rested. He's not playing a back-to-back, 3 games in 4 nights, 2 games in 3 nights, nothing like that. 34 minutes per game. 1.67 fantasy points per minute, and his usage rating is almost 34. So, dude, I mean, Giannis Antetokounmpo has the potential on any given night to go over 58 fantasy points. I like the game totals here. If San Antonio somehow finds a way to keep this thing competitive, well, then I do like the potential here for Giannis to go over 58. Who else did you have here? Draymond Green over assist. Let's go take a look at Draymond Green real quick and see if going over on the assist makes a sense or if it doesn't make a sense. Where is Draymond? Boom. 8.5 assists. Man, just off rip. I mean, it seems like that's a high number, but we got to take a look at this a little bit closer. things are never quite as they seem on the surface here. So we got Golden State, Memphis 112.5, Golden State 106.5. So you're talking about 218, 19 combined points. Not a ton of points as far as game total goes. Spread looks like it's going to be probably not green for me. I'd probably put it yellow to orange in terms of blowout risk, blowout potential here. Hopefully the Golden State Warriors can keep it close and competitive, especially if you're wanting Draymond Green to go over these 8.5 assists. So let's take a look and see how he's been doing here in his last few games in terms of assists. If we scroll on over, you could see in his last game, which was against Memphis, he drops 13 assists. That was last night, so big time over there. Then he drops 10 against Houston. That would put him over. 6 against Los Angeles, putting him well under. 12 against Utah. And then just 2 against the Clippers. So in his last 5, he's got 3 games where he's went well over 8.5 assists, and then 2 games where he's went pretty much well under 8.5 assists. Now, if we go over and do a little searchy search here for Draymond, all right, and we look at his season averages for assists. This website can be a little wonky sometimes. All right, so for the season, he is averaging 8.6 assists, so that puts him over 8.5. If we look at his last 30 games, you can see his assists are up to 9.2, so I'm liking the way that's looking. And then finally, his last 10 games, 8.4. So it's been a bit of an up and down roller coaster ride for Draymond Green in assists, but I think overall that going over on the assists doesn't look terrible here. One last thing that we can check when doing a little research on these single stats is how he's been being bet on in terms of this prop. So you can see over on DraftKings Sportsbook, they got him at 9.5 assists, and it looks like the juice is pretty much even here. Nobody really going over or under in terms of how people are betting. Now on FanDuel, they've got him at 9.5, which is higher than the 8.5. People are betting the under on the 9.5. People are betting the under on the 9.5 on BetMGM. And then finally, if we scroll over to PointsBet, people are betting the under on the 9.5 there. So he's going to be somewhere between 8.5 and 9.5. Hopefully he hits 9 for you, and the over on Draymond Green is the way to go. So not a bad pick there. DeMar DeRozan over on points. Over on points. Okay, well, while we're here, let's go ahead and look for DeMar DeRozan and see if he's up here on these different sports books, and he is. So they got DeRozan at 19.5 on a lot of these sports books here. Let's take a look and see where they've got him over on PrizePicks real quick. They got him at 19.5 on PrizePicks as well. So I'm not seeing any strong indicator of over or under on DeRozan on DraftKings. Looks like people are taking the under on DeRozan on FanDuel, under on DeRozan on BetMGM, and then the last site that we reference here, PointsBet, it looks like the action is pretty much split here, not really seeing one way or the other. So let's look at DeMar DeRozan over on lineups and see if we can find out some more information for you. So if we look at the season averages for DeRozan on points, you could see that for the season, 20.3 points. So he's been going over that 19.5 point prop. If we look at his last 30 games, 20 points puts him over, and then his last 10 games, 19.8. So all signs are pointing to the over on DeMar DeRozan for points. So I'm liking the way things are looking here so far for your pick on DeMar DeRozan over. I think you said over, right? Yeah, over on points. I think that's looking pretty good, man. I'm not going to go through all of your things there because you had quite a long list, but I'm just letting you know that so far so good, man. You've made some pretty solid picks, and I think that you've got a good chance at making some money. The last thing we'll look at, though, is DeMar DeRozan's last few games. 20 points puts him over, 30 puts him over, 20 puts him over. He goes under here at 10 and then over at 22. So 4 out of his last 5 games, I mean, he's been going over 19.5 points. And I like this situation here in terms of game total and spread for DeMar DeRozan to go over 19.5. So good job on those picks, man. Did I do LeBron James fantasy points already? I think I did. We can look at it again real quick, though. LeBron's at 52. We take a look at him over at Roto Grinders. He's at 48.34. So people are taking the under. At least people on Roto Grinders think that he's going to go under. As I mentioned, not a super high game total with Atlanta, LA, but LeBron here in his last few, he's been struggling to go over the 52, and he's went over just 2 times in his last 5 games. So LeBron, well, actually 3 times. We'll say 3 times in his last 5 games if you take out this All-Star game here against Kevin Durant. So yeah, they like him to go under today, does Roto Grinders, but in his last 5, he has went over today's projection of 52. What else do we have here? How do we sign up for the premium? Well, the first thing you want to do is make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. Turn on notifications as well. Second thing you'd want to do is join the Discord. There's a link down in the description of this live stream for you to join the Discord. If you've joined the Discord, look for me in that Out of Bounds DFS Discord. My name's CJ Curry. Can't be missed. If you can't find me, just ask a friend. They will let you know how to get a hold of me, or they'll tag me if you don't know how to find me in there. But yeah, first thing you need to do, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn on notifications, join the Discord, and then send me a message, and I'll get you all squared away with that. Do you like Ben Simmons over on rebounds? Ben Simmons over on rebounds? That's a good one. Let's take a look at Ben Simmons and see how he has been performing. Well, first and foremost here, I will say that this Sacramento-Philadelphia game has a very high total. It's over 230 real-life points. So, yes, so far so good on Ben Simmons over on rebounds. Let's take a look at his game logs for his last few games here and see how he has been rebounding the basketball without Joel Embiid around. So you can see in his last 5 here, if we go all the way back to Indiana, 6, that puts him, I forget what his prop was. Let me go pull it up here. That'd probably be smart, huh? 7.5 rebounds. Okay, so 6 puts him under. He goes over here against San Antonio with 9. 7 puts him barely under. And then, oh God, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Let me get it together here. 6 rebounds under, 4 rebounds under, 4 rebounds under, 13 over, and 10 over. Now, one cool thing about Roto Grinders and why I like them so much is they've got a handy little tool in here. I'm going to pull it up real quick, and it'll let you get a better idea of how Ben Simmons has been doing. So it's called Court IQ, and basically what we're able to do here with Court IQ is we go down to the Philadelphia 76ers, and we can take Joel Embiid off the floor, and then we can run query. And basically this will look at all of the minutes that these guys have played without Joel Embiid on the floor and give us an idea of if Ben Simmons has been like going over this 7.5 rebounds without Embiid out there, or if he's been going under. So you can see Ben Simmons has played 398.8 minutes without Joel Embiid on the floor. Now, during that time, if we filter by rebounds here or sort by rebounds, you can see he's averaged 8.67 rebounds per game without Embiid around. So yes, I do like the 7.5 rebounds for Ben Simmons. So far, that is looking good. The other thing that we're going to do real quick for you, just to further solidify your pick of Ben Simmons over rebounds, we can go to lineups.com, go to the Philadelphia 76ers, go to their season averages, and we could look at Ben Simmons rebounds. He is at 8 rebounds for the season, putting him over 7.5. We look at his last 30 for rebounds, 7.8 rebounds, puts him over 7.5. And then finally his last 10, he is at 7.4, so slightly under, but I'm still liking this situation without Embiid in the lineup for Ben Simmons to go over. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better and answers your question on Ben Simmons rebounds. Beef Swellington, you are welcome, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the question. Can you summarize like the best 3 players are? The best 3 players. LeBron James, and LeBron James, man. That's, he's the best. He's the best 3 players. No, I'm just kidding, Mason. Just keep tuning in, buddy. I mean, we're hitting some good plays here. Like some of these picks and questions that these guys are sending in through the chat. I think there's a lot of good picks coming out of here. I like the Ben Simmons over on rebounds. I liked what we looked at as far as Giannis over on fantasy points, Draymond over on assists makes a lot of sense. DeMar DeRozan over on points makes a lot of sense. Kawhi Leonard, we didn't talk about him. Kawhi Leonard over on fantasy points. Let's just backtrack. We'll take a look at Kawhi Leonard. Let's see how Kawhi Leonard's looking in terms of fantasy score today. Where is he at? Must be down the line here. Yep. Boom. So he's at 47. Kawhi Leonard at 47. So let's take a look and see how this game shapes up here for the Hornets, Clippers. All right, so first and foremost, yes, loving the game total here. Over 231, 232 real life points expected to be scored by these two teams when you combine their totals. So yeah, that's looking good. I am a little concerned that this game could become a blowout for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. Clippers are quite a big favorite here, but let's take a look at his fantasy score. He's at 47. They got him at 45.72 over on RotoGrinders. So comparatively, it looks like RotoGrinders is leaning toward the under. And if this game does blow out, then I think Kawhi Leonard under does make a little sense here, unless he is the main factor for the Clippers blowing out the Hornets. I mean, he could be the reason why the blowout happens, and that's what you have to hope for when you take the over on a guy like Kawhi Leonard. Now, in his last few games here, if we go back to March 4th against Washington, he puts up just 28.5 fantasy points. Not good. We skip over this one because this was the All-Star game. And then against the Golden State Warriors, he puts up 49.8, which puts him over 47. 37, that puts him under. 53 puts him over. And 42.9 is good for the under. So it's been a mixed bag with Kawhi Leonard. I'll be honest with you. I mean, one way or the other here, you know, it's just not looking good or clear in terms of over or under on Kawhi Leonard. Now, this matchup against the Hornets actually do a pretty good job against versatile forwards. So Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they're both classified as versatile forwards. Both of them in kind of a negative DVA spot. So again, that's defense versus archetype. Their archetype is versatile forward. That's like their classification, what type of forward they are more specifically. So both of these guys are going to be well rested. Neither one of them coming off of a back-to-back or 2 games in 3 nights, 3 games in 4 nights. Kawhi, monster. He's a monster. 1.32 fantasy points per minute, and his usage rating is over 28. So, yeah, I think Kawhi Leonard could potentially get there if Charlotte finds a way to make this game competitive. If they don't, then I would probably just stick to maybe playing Kawhi Leonard in a first half over format. If you don't think this game goes the distance, if you don't think Kawhi Leonard gets a full run of minutes in this one, probably want to just take Kawhi Leonard in a first half only and go over there. Kaiser says, do you like total over on rebounds with all of the other Spurs players out? Good question. Jacob Poeltl, that guy, he had an assist with like 30 seconds or less to go in yesterday's game. I had a good 5 pick going. I was 4 out of 5. I just needed him to stay under his fantasy score for a full game. And he has a last minute assist and breaks my heart. So it ended up being a double up instead of a 10x on my $20 entry there. So big swing in terms of money made. But let's look at Poeltl real quick and see if his rebound prop is something that we should be taking over or be taking the under on. Let's go find this big dude. All right, so he's at 8.5 rebounds. Let's see how things are shaping up for him over here on RotoGrinders. Let's start by looking at his last few games and seeing how he's been rebounding the basketball. Well, his last 3 have been fantastic. 12 boards, 16 boards, 12 boards, just crushing 8.5 rebounds in his last few. He goes under here with just 5 against Philly, but then against Orlando, my Orlando Magic, he puts up 9 rebounds. So in his last 5 games, he has been going over 8.5 rebounds, 4 out of 5. Love the success rate there for Poeltl over rebounds. Now, Milwaukee, as we know, they don't really have a dominant big man inside. In fact, they have a guy that is basically just a 7-foot point guard who sits out there and jacks up threes in Brook Lopez. He is not a dominant rebounder. He has never been a dominant rebounder. He has all that size and does nothing with it. So, yeah, I'm thinking Jacob Poeltl here could probably hit 8.5 or more rebounds. Let's take a look over at RotoWire, and we could head down to his rebounds here and see if they've got them up. They do. So 8.5 rebounds on DraftKings Sportsbook. People are taking the over on that. So that's looking good so far. Encouraging sign. 8.5 on FanDuel. They're taking the over there. BetMGM, 8.5. They're taking the over there. And finally, PointsBet, 8.5 rebounds. They're taking the over as well. So yeah, man, I think Jacob Podol over 8.5 rebounds makes a ton of sense. Hopefully that helps you out there, Mr. Kaiser, sir. If you are a sir, I think you're a sir. Yeah, so I like Jacob Podol over 8.5 rebounds, man. I think that's a super solid pick. What else, guys? I mean, if you guys don't have any more questions or anything, we can go ahead and wrap this up. This is more of an experiment, the first time that I've ever done a live stream, so I wanted to see how it's going. By the way, leave a comment in the chat for me. Is the live stream good as far as quality? Is it smooth? Is the audio good? The video good? You guys are my guinea pigs here. I'm kind of relying on you. Let me know if the stream is going good or not. So far, it seems like it's going pretty well. I haven't heard any complaints from anyone. So who else did you have on your ticket? Tobias Harris on points. Mr. Beef Swellington. Tobias Harris. Was that Tobias Harris over on points? Real life points? Let me know. On Twitter, can you share your plays? Once in a while, I post a lineup to Twitter. You know, to be honest with you, my biggest thing is Discord. I use Discord, especially for like the premium members. I'm in Discord chit-chatting with like the premium members more than anything else. If I'm being completely 100% honest with you, that's where you're going to find my picks, my plays. I have a little channel in there where I post some of the like single stats that I'm liking, where I post some of the fantasy projections that I'm liking. So if you're not in the Discord, or if you're not a Discord premium member more specifically, then I would definitely recommend you get up in there. Do you ever release your picks for us to use? Well, I kind of just answered that. Yes, at times I do post things on Twitter, but again, most of my action, man, I'm heavy into Discord. I love that little community that we're building. By the way, our Discord just hit over 500 Discord members today. So huge accomplishment, big time milestone for us. The other day we hit 700 subscribers here on YouTube. So fantastic growth. We've only been at this, if you can, believe it, since January 1st of this year. And we've already hit over 700 subs on YouTube and over 500 Discord members. So how do I join Discord Premium? Well, first thing, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure that you're subscribed, turn on notifications. Second thing would be to check the description of this video. There should be a link for the Discord in there. Join the Discord using that link. Once you're in the Discord, shoot me a message. My name's CJ Curry. Can't miss me. Premium membership's just $20 a month, man. And honestly, one decent night. I'm not even saying a great night. I'm saying a decent night. One decent night, it pretty much pays for itself. I mean, that's all you have to win back is what, $20? I think that's well worth it. Easy to do. So many good plays. We're not just doing NBA, by the way, in premium. We have premium channels for every sport you can think of. We've got people who are highlight enthusiasts. We've got people who are disc golf enthusiasts. We've got esports, League of Legends, CSGO, Call of Duty League, kind of new. We're still trying to figure that out. Rocket League is new. Valorant is new. We're going to do NFL, obviously, when that comes around. MLB is right around the corner. We've already got some people who are super hyped for MLB. We do PGA. I mean, you name it. We're playing it. If there's a little money to be made here or there on a sport, we're all over it. But yeah, right now the primary focus would probably be NBA, college basketball, and that's what we're doing in the Discord premium channels. So Tobias Harris, we didn't get a clarification on if Tobias Harris was that for the over on his real life points or over on fantasy points, or was that under on fantasy or under on real life points? Let's look at Tobias Harris real quick though. We'll just look at his points since you brought him up. Tobias Harris, they've got him up on the various sports books at about 23.5 points. So we'll take a look at Tobias Harris over on PrizePicks. He's at 23.5. So far, I mean, DraftKings Sportsbook, they've got him going over 23.5. FanDuel's got him going over 23.5. BetMGM, people are taking the under there, slight under. And then finally, PointsBet, strong over, looking like the way to go for Tobias Harris at 23.5 points. Let's take a look. While I have this up here, we can see how Tobias Harris scores the basketball without Joel Embiid around. So we head on over to the points column, and you can see that without Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, 25.5 real life points per game without Embiid around. And that's with 450 minutes on the court without Embiid around. So big sample size. So I would say it's pretty safe to assume that Tobias Harris can get over 23.5 points. And he averages 44.24 fantasy points in that time without Embiid. Now, if we scroll down here and we look at the per 36-minute differential, you can see that without Embiid around, he scores about 4 more real-life points than he typically does with Embiid on the floor. So definitely a plus situation here for Tobias Harris and talking about his real life point potential tonight. So yeah, I think this is a good spot for him to go over 23.5 points, especially when you consider that the game totals are so high in this one with Sacramento and Philadelphia, over 230 real life points. So I like that ticket, Beef Swellington. If you win tonight, buddy, if you win, keep me in mind. Send me a tip, man. I think you've done a good job. I'm just kidding. You don't have to send me anything. But Kaiser, can you explain bankroll management? Well, it's a little harder, I would say, on PrizePicks versus some of the other sites. So I've played a lot of like DraftKings. I've played a lot of FanDuel over the years. And typically on those sites, you know, you'll hear different ways that you can approach bankroll management. Some folks say that, let's say you have, you know, $100 to play with, or $100 is your bankroll, that you should be playing about 10% of your bankroll. And then of that 10%, 80% of that 10%, 80% of it should go toward cash games. In other words, double ups, 50-50s, and then like 20% of it should go toward GPPs, probably leaning more toward like single entry GPPs where you have a higher chance of winning. We're not going up against, you know, 10,000, 20,000 different people, but PrizePicks is a different game. We're not playing tournaments. We're not playing cash games. If you were to talk cash games over on PrizePicks, I would say that the equivalent of a cash game on PrizePicks would be a 2-pick flex play. So if you play a 2-pick flex, you're looking at, you know, doubling up if that hits. So if you were to take Tobias Harris over on points and, I don't know, Rashawn Holmes under on points, and you do a 2-pick flex, you see you get 2 correct picks, it's a 2x or a double up on your money. But if you miss one, get one right, you get half your money back. So really, this is the safest way to play, is a flex play. So, you know, that would be kind of your equivalent to a cash game. Now, a lot of people, they like going 2-pick power play. Now with this, you get 3x or a triple up on whatever your entry is. But with power plays, if you miss one, you lose all your money. So biggest thing that I would say about bankroll management is that, you know what you can afford to lose, you know, establish that up front, and be consistent with how you bet. In other words, figure out what your units are, you know, how much you're willing to put out there on a play. If it's a 2-pick power play, are you betting, you know, $10 on a 2-pick power? Maybe you have less risk tolerance. Maybe you don't feel as comfortable losing all your money if you miss one pick in a 2-pick power, 3-pick power, or any power play. So you got to kind of decide what your risk tolerance is, what you're willing to lose, and just stay consistent with how you bet, how much money you're going to put out there. You know, make it the same. Don't get crazy and say, well, today I'm just woke up and my gut's telling me that this is going to be a good day and it's St. Patrick's Day and there's 4-leaf clovers everywhere that I'm looking. And so I'm going to put a $500 bet out there, $400 bet out there, when normally you're like a $20, you know, power bet guy. So, I mean, that would be the biggest thing, is just know, you know, what your limits are, what you're willing to risk, what you're willing to lose, because this is gambling at the end of the day. There's nothing that's a lock, nothing that's a guarantee. You know, you can feel so strong, and then a guy can go out there and roll his ankle and you lose $400 on a 2-pick power play or something. I don't know. So you just need to be consistent and, be realistic with, how much you can afford to play and how much you're willing to risk, because it is a risk. So, but yeah, I just wanted to jump on here on this live for a little bit and do a little different format, a live stream. I'm not really seeing any other questions or anything like that popping in. I think so far this has been pretty good success. We're rolling up to about an hour. So unless anybody else has any last minute picks or plays or questions or anything like that, then I'm going to wrap it up and go watch some sports. Going once. Going twice. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to do more of this type of stuff for you in the future. Stream's been pretty cool. Thank you for all your questions. Thanks for everybody who put in a comment into the chat. And I hope that all of your questions were answered. And I look forward to doing more of these types of things for you in the future. But until the next one, guys, this is CJ for Out of Bounds DFS. We'll catch you then. Good luck tonight. Hopefully you win some money. College basketball, NBA going strong. Peace out.